fair to say you're getting into the show, which is always good news. With these kind of shows, you never know how popular they'll be for obvious reasons. But hopefully, I think the great thing about this, Phil, and I absolutely mean this, is that I think these kind of shows show... Some people think handicapping and all that kind of stuff's dull. And you make it interesting, and I mean that sincerely.
Well, and I say I've been doing this job for many, many years now, and it's never dull. It's different every day, and it's a fantastic job.
I believe it's never dull. And you've already shown us with an expression, actually, which I'll get to in a minute. Scott says, and this is a classic example, he says, I'm meant to be going to the gym. He says, you'll have to wait until after the programme now. I mean, that's great, isn't it, that someone will do that? Luke says, Papone for the International, have to agree, brilliant horse, maximum bet. And thanks to Dave, I better not read that out. I don't want to upset Phil too much. I tell you, Ben Hutton, I think you only had European horses. He's just saying, where's Ashin Hikari?
Yeah, they were just the European horses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, did not that race take place in France? Yes, it did. Yes. Although shocking at Ascot, terrible there, didn't it, Ashin Hikari? Terrible.
Yeah, we know he's a good horse, though.
Yeah. Could you ask Phil Smith what rating will Ventura Storm get after his win at Deauville? Ventura Storm for Midland Park.
Yep, 111. He'll get, and there's only 2 people so far internationally who've put a figure on the system. That's myself and Eric from France, and we both agree 111. I'd
better just explain this. The Wi-Fi isn't working absolutely as fast as we'd like it from the point of view of a TV show. So, Phil, can you try and look up Hollywood Road while I just continue for a moment? I want you to have a look at the form of Hollywood Road. Yep. Hollywood spelt as in Frankie. Frankie goes to Hollywood. And road as in the thing you drive along. Mm-hmm. So, loads of questions coming in. Have you managed to get that up?
We've got him up, yeah.
OK. Could you explain, please, why Hollywood Road, rated 75 in Ireland after running 8 furlongs at 2, was given 69 after running just twice over 5 furlongs here?
Why was he given 69? Because his 2 runs in England at Wolverhampton were modest.
But surely he was running over an inadequate trip, so you wouldn't drop him.
Well, he'd run over that before. He'd run over 5, 6 before.
Right. But the expression on your face suggests that you're slightly bemused by this yourself.
Well, no, because he then runs...
Expression gives everything away, Phil.
We dropped him to 69, and then he ran a real good race, and we put him up £3 for finishing second. You know, so again, it doesn't stop horses subsequently winning, does it, going up for being placed? Do you remember we discussed that earlier?
Yeah.
Right at the start of the show. So he went up to 72, he then ran again off 72 and finished second, and what did we do? We put him up another 3. So here's a horse that's gone up twice for finishing second, £3 both times, and then he finishes, second again. So incredibly frustrating, but what happens? He then runs off the 75 that we've put him up to twice, and he wins. So can we just establish the fact that when horses get put up for finishing placed, they can subsequently win? So we won't have any more of that, he couldn't win off this, so he can't win off that discussions.
That was from Kubler Racing.
No, it wasn't. It was from you earlier.
No. The original question about Hollywood Road.
Interesting question.
They're desperately trying to get you. Try again, Kublers.
Well, I have to say, I think that's absolutely brilliant handicapping, because we get it competitive here as soon as we possibly can. It's finished second. We put it up twice, and it then goes and wins. Good training from Mr. Cantillon, but brilliant handicapping.
Could you have a look up Lonely the Brave?
3 different words.
Lonely the Brave, and just explain.
3 different words?
Yes, okay. Lonely the Brave. And just explain.
It doesn't want to... yes, it does. It's
just explain why it's had a win,
and
you can't give it a mark. Are you scared of him going off at a short price in a Goodwood nursery?
No. The reason we couldn't give it a mark is because at that point in time it was above 85, and we're not allowed to give a horse a rating after 2 runs when it's over 85. That's the rule.
Any reason for that?
Because we generally found over years and years and years that horses that had run twice, including a win, that were over 85 had massive improvements, and they had a a hugely advantageous effect when they ran in nurseries against inferior horses. So it wasn't fair.
Can you just tell me, is this a relatively new concept?
No, we've had that in for, well, Matthew Tester would almost gives the right answer, but I suspect at least 10, if not 15 years.
But it might explain why in the past people always liked the top weight in nurseries, why we have that cliche, because of that reason.
If you've run twice, including a win, and you get 85, it's happy days.
Now, weight for age. We were just talking about whether the weight for age scale is fair or not. Have a look at what Ed de Giles thinks about the system.
Funnily enough, I had that conversation with a handicapper this morning. You could argue that maybe the older horses are slightly too highly handicapped, but...
Funnily enough, I've asked the handicapper programme on Wednesday on At the Races with Phil Smith. Shall I put that to him? What your argument is at this stage of the year? Maybe
This was the argument of Mr. Tester, and right. You know, there is an argument, but look, they do have an advantage, I think, don't they? And well, we're taking 3 off his back tonight for that reason. So. Look, he's lightly raced and he runs his race. There should be, the favourite should go on and make it. Has done last twice, I think. So it should be a good test, and that's what he wants. I think he was slightly unlucky last time. He won his battle with the horse he was having a battle with, and the other 2 were coming down the middle. And I think, you know, he does try. These cheap pieces, I think, have slightly worked. And, yeah, look, I think he'll run his race. And if he comes 2nd or 3rd today, then I think we have to look for something different and maybe step him back up in trip again, which we thought perhaps initially he didn't stay, but I think, you know, we sort of know the horse a bit better now, and that might be an option.
We wish you well. So that's Ed de Giles, who had a horse against 2 up-and-coming 3-year-olds. Funnily enough, neither of the up-and-coming 3-year-olds did actually win it, and the older horse won for James Fanchel, who was top weight and first time out. It was a terrific training performance. First winner, incidentally, for Qatar, for James Fanchel with his first runner. Anyway, that's all by the by. Phil, the weight for age scale is a thing that we have talked at a lot. Would you change it?
So just go back to that race first. So Mr. de Giles was concerned that the 3-year-olds were advantaged in that race, and they finished where and where?
Second and last, probably.
Okay, so
but the last horse clearly didn't run before, and the second horse should have won. So
they weren't advantaged or disadvantaged. They just ran okay.
Yeah, I don't think when we take this conversation on board, we're just going to look at one race.
No, absolutely, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
So in general terms, though,
in general terms, well,
is it hard for 3-year-olds,
as you know,
or hard for the older horses at this time of year?
As you know, for some years, I've been bleating on about the fact that I think there should be a little change in the weight for age scale, but it's a long, slow process, and we just have to wait and see.
Final 2 very quick questions. One of them's a good one. From Scott, can you ask Phil the best book to read to understand ratings?
I believe there's a book written by Dave Dickinson, one of my colleagues, many, many years ago when he was at Raceform, so I would look that one up.
But in fact, if you just read, it's a bit like following horse racing. For me, if you watch every race every day and you read the Racing Post from back to front, you'll know as much as most people in the world. And if you just read the BHA website every day, you will get to grips with it, won't you?
Sure, but I would get that Dave Dickinson book. But the most important thing, if you're going to, interested in ratings, is do as I did to start off with, and that's keep your own ratings, and you soon learn by your mistakes as much as anything else. Okay,
and final 2 very quick questions. Macaulay, you're not going to answer this, but I'll ask it. Which is the best handicapped horse on the British flat scene right now? Who have you chucked in somewhere for a little Christmas bonus?
The honest answer is I wouldn't have a clue, and I hope they're all fairly handicapped.
OK. Judged by the rest of the show, I believe you. And Alex says, where should Faheen run at the Cheltenham Festival? World Hurdle, Gold Cup, Champion Hurdle. The only race he can't run in is the Mares, probably, although he could try.
Well, I wouldn't run in the Gold Cup.
No?
Because that's going to be the toughest race.
OK. The World Hurdle will be the easiest, isn't it?
I would run... Again, if I were the owner of horses or the trainer of horses, the placing is the most important thing. I'd always run against the weakest opposition, so I'd go World Hurdle. OK. And our final tweeter just said, your face when you announced you'd put up Sir Mark's Prescott's horse, £15, was just one of total, utter joy from a handicapper. And I suspect Sir Mark's, when he won the race, was one of total, utter joy as well.
Some people go out on a Saturday night, have a few jars and have a look around the local nightclub. Phil, he just shoves up a Prescott horse by 15 pounds. That's how he gets his kicks. Phil, great to have you on the show today. Thanks, brilliant as ever. Ask the Handicapper will be back next month. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Proper stuff coming up after this.